Hello and welcome to this edition of the geography course here on SWS. My name is Sudhir and we would be doing the industries chapter. We are doing Shubharam to the industries chapter, which includes both agro-based industries as well as mineral-based industries. Now, what exactly does it mean? Because the two are very different from each other. So, puri tarah se, we will understand about what are the various differences, what are the things to remember as far as mineral-based and agro-based industries are concerned. We already would have an idea, especially since we have done the agriculture chapter already, because there we have read about the different crops that are grown in India. Agro-based industry essentially flows out of agriculture, as the name itself suggests. But before we get into it, in this first video, we will be understanding about what industries mean for a country, what they mean for the economy of a country, and why is it so important to encourage industrial development in a country. Okay, so let's get started. So the first question, as I said, why is industry important? Now, India, as you know, is basically an agricultural country, right? So what happens is that industrialization provides support to the agriculture sector. For example, the farmer needs a tractor in order to kind of ensure that he's able to plow the fields, etc. Instead of investing in bullocks, he can actually buy a tractor. The tractor will be produced by the industry, isn't it? So those are the kind of things where it helps as far as the partnership between agriculture and industry really helps. The second one is that industries produce goods and equipment which help in India's defense needs. You need to fire missiles, you need to manufacture tanks, you need to have missile systems. Who produces all that? That's the defense industry, which actually manufactures all that for the country's defense needs in order to keep you and me safe. So that is another important reason why industry is so important. So we are going to go sector by sector: agriculture, defense. Then, to keep pace with advanced technology in the country, in the world, so that you are in sync. 5G has come to India now, right? Why is it so important? Couldn't we have lived with 2G? Obviously not. We are no longer in the era of landlines, right? So we have come a long way. Landlines to pagers to 2G to now 5G technology rolled out. So in that sense, these are major steps. Development of backward areas, right? The more industries you set up in the backward areas, they help in the integration of the backward areas, the underdeveloped areas, with the rest of the country. Very important, because you provide employment, you ensure that they get educated in order to gain employment in those industries. That's why industries are normally set up in really the in the backward areas, so that can act as a fulcrum, as a pivot to ensure development of that area. You set up an industry there, the roads will be laid, water supply will be taken care of, electricity will be taken care of the nearby villages, employment will be guaranteed, not just in the factory, but also in and around the factory. Someone sets up a tea shop to provide tea to the people who come there. Someone sets up a security agency to provide security to the factory, right? So different kinds of employment. So it helps in development of the backward areas. Understood? I'm trying to explain it in very simple language, which you will be able to relate to. It helps in favorable balance of trade, import and export, right? Because you cannot be a country which is only having imported goods, then your economy will collapse like the one has collapsed in Sri Lanka, right? So your import export trade balance has to be absolutely perfect. So only when you have industry manufacturing goods, then you can export it, right? Instead of depending purely on import of various kind of material, right? And thereby you end up making India self-reliant. That is Atma-Nirbhar. That is, you are manufacturing goods which you need in the country. Make in India. and not rely on make in USA or make in China kind of goods, right? In fact, even the goods that you buy at very fashionable stores in New York or even in London, most of the time, if you see the tag inside, it will say made in Bangladesh or made in Sri Lanka, especially garments, right? You would buy the thing, but it would not be made in Britain or made in USA. It's being sold in USA and Britain, but it would have been manufactured in Bangladesh or in Sri Lanka. Check it out. You will know. I've had that experience. Now, as far as agriculture is concerned, I mean, that was the first point that I made, because 50% of the population is dependent on agriculture for its livelihood, but it cannot support the needs of the population, and therefore industrialization is needed to generate employment. Okay, there is a code that I have written in the notes. Please use that so that it's easy for you to remember. Okay, now let's understand all about industry. Manufacturing industries, the role of the manufacturing industry, the location, the importance of the location of the manufacturing industry, and the different factors that come into play. Let's look at the role of the manufacturing industries first. Now, manufacturing industries are essentially engaged in conversion of raw material into the finished product. It could be anything. It could be an iron and steel raw material, and you make that into, say, a washing machine. Okay, I'm just giving a normal example. An agro base, you pick up wood and you convert that into a furniture for your home, right? So a study table for you. The study table that you are studying on would have been wood at that time, and if some factory somewhere in India would have converted that raw material into a finished product for you to use. Okay, so that's the role of a manufacturing industry in the manufacturing sector. It determines the economic strength and the wealth of a country. The stronger your manufacturing economy, that is your manufacturing goods in the country, thereby selling it, generating revenue that adds to the wealth of the country. And it showcases the economic strength of the country. Okay, provides employment. I've already explained that to you. And it's also critical for other sectors like transport. Unless the iron and steel industry manufactures car, then how would the Hyundai and the Maruti Suzuki and the Mahindra and Mahindra, etc., bring out different kind of vehicles on the road, right? You need to build wagons for the Indian railways. The banking sector, right? Different kinds of jobs, taking money from one place to another, setting up ATMs, building banks, everything. Manufacturing sector is like the heart of the entire economy. Every country needs a strong and robust manufacturing sector. IT sector, pharmaceutical, electronics is all fine, but manufacturing remains key, right? To generate more employment and also to indicate the strength of a country's economy. Okay, so that's what is the role. Next, we come to the location factor. Okay, why is the location of a manufacturing sector very important? Unlike in IT sector where you can work from home, where you can sit in Bengaluru and work for a company in Seattle in USA, right? You can do that, but you can't do that in the case of a manufacturing sector industry. So the proximity matlab closeness, the closeness to the source of raw material and the market, very important. For the reason that जितना पास रॉ मटेरियल होगा आपके मैन्युफैक्चरिंग इंडस्ट्रीज के पास, that much lesser time you would actually take to transport the raw material. जितना जल्दी आपके फैक्ट्री में पहुंचेगा उतनी जल्दी मैन्युफैक्चरिंग प्रोसेस शुरू हो जाएगा. The process of manufacturing will start, so it will save on cost of procurement, cost of transportation, and if the market is also close, the cost of sales, etc., will also come down. Okay, so in the end, the person who has invested in that particular factory or in that particular manufacturing unit will be able to get maximum returns on the money that he has invested, on the capital that he has invested. Understood? Okay. मुझे तो समझ में आ रहा है. आपको समझ में आ रहा है या नहीं? नहीं आ रहा तो बताओ. Next, let's move to the important factors. The availability of raw material, which are the different factors which are so important for the setting up of a manufacturing industry. First is the availability of raw material. Understood? Power, bijli, zaruri hai. Labor, skilled and quality labor. Cheap labor also, skilled labor also. बहुत महंगा भी ना हो लेबर, लेकिन ऐसा नहीं हो कि कमबख्त को काम ही नहीं मालूम हो, काम भी मालूम होना चाहिए. So skilled and cheap labor. Capital, funds to set up the industry. Managerial skills, someone to look after the entire labor force, someone to decide, okay, 3 shift में मेरे को काम करना है, डबल शिफ्ट में काम करना है, ताकि आई एम एबल टू मीट द डिमांड फॉर द ऑर्डर्स, राइट? सो मैनेजरियल स्किल्स. Transportation, very important, and the market. Where will you sell the goods to, right? In case of, if it is going to be exported, the proximity, the closeness to the port becomes that much important, so that you can set it off. You are exporting, let's say, to Japan, so you will be able to send it from the ship, say from Visakhapatnam port or Paradip port or Kolkata port, right? Then the cost of land. उसमें अगर आप मंगलुरु या मुंबई एयरपोर्ट से भेजेंगे तो कितना ज्यादा होगा? मुंबई से नीचे जाके श्रीलंका को क्रॉस करके देन ऊपर जाना पड़ेगा. बजाय इसके, if you can send it from Visakhapatnam or Kolkata, it will be closer. You understand? I'm just trying to relate it to the geography. The cost of land, because you need to buy the land in order to set up the manufacturing industry. Construction cost, the cost of the machinery that you need to buy. You need the water. You need good climate, because if the climate is very hot and humid, it will have an effect, an adverse, a negative effect on the productivity of the laborers, the workers, right? Whereas if the climate is good, you will also feel fresh and you can actually work better. The productivity will be better. Then the financial strength of a company, that the company should have enough capital to sustain the company for many number of years. ये नहीं हो कि तीन साल बाद टन टन गोपाल हो जाए, पैसा खत्म हो गया, काम खत्म, बंद कर दो दुकान. ऐसा भी होता है. So that should not happen. Then the local political factors also come into play. What do I mean? I'll give you an example, a live example. A few months, sometime last year, a few months ago, we had this case. A friend of mine who heads a major company in Chennai and Mumbai, one of his companies was facing the problem in Anantapur in Andhra Pradesh. The local MLA's husband was threatening and sending gundas. He was saying that I need this much of hafta money to be paid, and this was a solar energy company in Anantapur district of Andhra Pradesh, southern part of Andhra Pradesh. Unless you pay this much of hafta to me every week, I will not allow the company to function. All the vehicles that are arranged, for the company, the cars, etc., tempos, etc., for the employees to be brought into the company every morning, shift mein, wo sab companies generally do that, especially since all these companies are located a little away from the main town, right? So you need to, all the transportation vehicles should be taken from me so that he can make a good profit. So that was agreed to, because obviously you need to survive. But then if you have to pay a bribe every week in order to survive, obviously it gets too much. So then the company's owner, who is a friend of mine, he reached out to me saying that, can we do anything? So I spoke to the Chief Minister's office in Andhra Pradesh. I've got some good friends there. And I said that, see, please do something, because because tomorrow if any newspaper points this out, it's the MLA's husband. If he's doing this, it will bring your party and government a bad name. So tell him to mind his own business. Tell him that this is not on. Otherwise, media mein aa jayega. Opposition will pick it up. There are different ways to tell the government. So they called the MLA's husband there and told him, you will not do anything. Just keep off it. It's a prestigious solar energy ka company. Baaz nahi aaya. 2 hafta, 3 hafta, 1 mahine chup raha. Again he started. Then again, I had to call up a senior official and tell him that, boss, I mean, this fellow is quite a character. He doesn't seem to understand that, this can lead to his wife's loss in the next elections, and it could lead to his expulsion from the party. So finally, they told him that you need to just mind your own business, otherwise it will lead to serious consequences. So that's what I meant by local political factors. Ye picture वगैरह में भी काफी देखने को मिलता है, right? So that's again there. So now let's look at the 2 other factors. One is the geographical factors in more detail, and also the commercial factors. What are the geographical factors? The raw material, the energy, the power, the water supply, and the labor. How does it work? Let me go into detail. Raw material is now the textile industry, kapdon ka, right, was developed near Bombay, now Mumbai, right? Because it received cotton supply from Gujarat. This I'm talking about many years ago, even before independence. Similarly, the jute mills of Hooghly, right? Agriculture chapter mein padha hai. They got their raw material from the Gangetic Delta region of Bengal, right? Similarly, the iron and steel industry, जिसके बारे में हम इस चैप्टर में पढ़ेंगे, is located in the Odisha Jharkhand region because of proximity to coal, power, everything in the Jharkhand and Odisha belt, right? Iron ore, limestone, dolomite, manganese, everything, right? Similarly, sugar mills are located more in Uttar Pradesh, Bihar, and in Maharashtra, Karnataka, where there are a large number of sugar mills, right? Have you ever been to a sugar mill? Please go. मजा आता है देखने में, एक अजीब सी smell आती है. I've been to in Karnataka, and it's quite an experience, right? So easy availability of raw material, as I said, cuts down on your transportation cost. Number two is the water supply, which is needed for cleaning. It's needed for cooling, especially in the iron and steel industry. It's needed for bleaching and washing in the textile industry. So हर industry में पानी की जरूरत काफी रहती है. So the closeness, the proximity to the water source is very important, be it a river or some kind of large lake or pond. The third is the energy. Energy means uninterrupted power supply, right? In order to convert the raw material to the finished product. And that's where again coal resources के पास ही iron and steel industry रहता है. Similarly, electrochemical industries are located near power plants. Industries use hydel power wherever coal is in short supply. So that's again very important. Fourth point is labor. Okay. Now industries need both skilled and unskilled labor, what I mentioned to you, right? In some things, machines operate करनी हो, imported machines operate करने हो, you need skilled labor, you need qualified labor. वहां पे जाके कोई गवार आके कुछ उल्टा सीधा दबा देगा तो करोड़ों का machine गया up in smoke. So you can't do that. So that's important. Then that labor should be able to move if they want chutti and want to go 10 days to their home. So that mobility you need to ensure. For instance, if you go to Kerala, especially in and around Kochi ke paas mein, you find a large labor force from the northeast, especially from Assam, because they don't get sufficient employment in the northeast. They come all the way to Kerala to work. Mobility is not a very great factor because they need to go back, especially during COVID. Many of them actually went back home at that time from Bengaluru, from Hyderabad, from Kerala. They all went back to Jharkhand, Odisha, and Bengal, and Bihar, and Assam, right? So skilled force is very important, especially in works like glasswork in Firozabad, brass work in Muradabad, utensils in Yamunanagar, silk saris in Banaras, carpets in Mirzapur, bangle work in Hyderabad. So you need skilled labor force, right? Then you have transport. Connection to the seaport that I mentioned, whether it to Mumbai or Kolkata or Visakhapatnam or railway stations, is very important. Then you have the thing of the market. As I said, the ultimate requirement. ऐसा नहीं है कि market आपका इतना दूर है. So the market should have also demand. It should be close. It should also have demand. It should also have purchasing power. वहां के लोगों में इतना पैसा होना चाहिए कि वे आपके products को खरीदने की जो हिंदी में बोलते हैं ना क्षमता. They should have the purchasing power, right? Very important when it comes to market. इसको underline कर लीजिए, notes में लिखा है. And then climate. It's important, especially for both for mineral based and especially for agro based industries. The cotton textile industry is based in Maharashtra and Gujarat because of the black cotton soil. So the climate and soil factors are interconnected. Extreme weather is not favorable. You have sugarcane more in South India and Maharashtra because of the kind of climate that is there. And also because adverse climate can affect the efficiency of the workforce and also the availability of raw material. Next, we come to commercial factors. Okay. Now, इसमें you have politics and government. Political force मैंने अभी आपको, political factor मैंने अभी भी आपको with an example समझाया, right? So even otherwise, government should have more industry-friendly policies. Like many governments, for instance, the Telangana government has a very incredible policy wherein you have a case of 15 days, they will give you all the permissions, water, power, construction, taxes, all the permissions within 15 days. If by chance the government of Telangana Industries Department does not give you the permission, all the permissions required within 15 days, it will be deemed as given. आप 16वें दिन अपना काम शुरू कर सकते हैं. It will be taken that आपको permission मिल गया है. So the onus is on the bureaucracy, on the government to ensure कि 15 दिन में काम खत्म करना है, नहीं तो ये इंडस्ट्री अपने आप काम शुरू कर देगी, even otherwise, right? So that's again very important. Also, when you are kind of wooing industry, when you want big ticket industry to come, so that, as I said, it can lead to the development of a backward area somewhere, right? For instance, the solar energy park gives employment to local people in Anantapur. Ideally, the local MLA should be very encouraging of it instead of behaving in this kind of a corrupt manner. है ना? But what also happens is that the governments also have to ensure that the industry policy, okay, I will give you land at a slightly concessional rate if you are willing to provide employment to so many thousands of people from these many villages and mandals in that particular region. So you ensure that, okay, मेरे 3,000 young people को वहां पर नौकरी मिलेगी. So even if I give a concession on land, or I give power supply at a subsidized rate, or water supply at a subsidized rate, those are the concessions which many governments give. Okay, I'm trying to explain it with the help of examples so that it's easy for you to understand. I'll tell you another example, very fascinating example. There is an Indian school of business which is there in Hyderabad, right? Way back, and I'm talking about late 90s when Chandrababu Naidu was the Chief Minister of United Andhra Pradesh. The industrialists, the top industrialists led by Ratan Tata kind of people, Anil Ambani, wanted to set up, initial choice was Mumbai because they're all based out of Mumbai, right? So they wanted to set up the ISB, the Indian School of Business in Mumbai. So they went and they met Bal Thackeray. Okay, Bal Thackeray said, yes, okay, fine. But if you this thing, a certain percentage, I don't remember the exact percentage, there is a book written on it, there is a certain percentage of students should be Maharashtrians, कि मेरे बच्चों को वहां पर कोटा में admission मिलेगा, in the sense that, there should be reserved seats for students of Maharashtra. They did not want that because Indian School of Business was trying to project itself as an international class management school, like on par with the IIMs of the country, right? So they did not want this reservation. They said, no, we can't do that. It will be entirely based on merit. Chandrababu Naidu told this particular delegation, at that time, Hyderabad was not really the Hyderabad of today. It was still seen as, a town, not so much as a city. Whatever any other state will offer, I will offer you better than that. I will better that offer. Okay, anyone. And he gave land on concessional rates, gave lots of concessions with power supply, various other things, and he ensured that the Indian School of Business came to Hyderabad. Once the Indian School of Business came, it acted like a magnet. And subsequently, you had Microsoft, Google, Amazon, Apple, you name it, every big IT company, Facebook is in Hyderabad today. So because they see, okay, Indian School of Business must have done due diligence, must have studied a lot before they set up base in a city like that. That's what industry-friendly policies, in this case for a B school, a business school, does to the overall climate in a particular city or state. Okay, I hope with the help of examples, it's clear. Since I've kind of reported on all these things, I'm aware of, yes, they're all there at the back of my mind. Capital, access to banks and financials, you need to have enough money. And finally, what are footloose industries? Now, footloose industries are those in which no particular locational factor is predominant. These produce consumer goods like cosmetics, toys, soaps. These can be set up anywhere, right? If you have ever gone to a soap factory, I've gone to a soap factory in Kurnool district in Andhra Pradesh, which manufactures Rexona soap. So the moment you enter, you feel almost like you have taken a bath, right? So the raw material for these industries is generally available in most regions, right? These are the kind of goods, cosmetics, toys, soaps, etc., which can be manufactured anywhere. So these are the footloose industries. उनके लिए location doesn't really matter. Raw material के पास होना ऐसा नहीं है. It can be manufactured just about anywhere. So the location of these units is not such a crucial, it's not such a critical factor. We will pause video 1 out here. I hope you're enjoying it. I am enjoying teaching it because it's a lot of interesting detail which you can give in order to make the entire process of teaching geography that much more interesting. I'll see you now in video number 2. Bye bye. Okay, I hope you have seen part 1 video in which we spoke about the importance of manufacturing industries for the economy of the country, for the overall development and prosperity of a country or of any kind of geographical unit. In video number 2, as part of the agro-based industries chapter, we will be talking about the classification of industries. This is an important part. On what basis are the industries classified, and this falls into 5 or 6 different kind of categories that you should be familiar with along with examples, right? So aapse you could be asked about, you could be given an example and asked on what basis is this particular industry classified. Okay, so when we are talking about industries, we are talking about the iron and steel kind of heavy duty industries, the mineral based industries. We are also talking about the agro based industries, in this case the sugarcane industry, which is part of your syllabus. But we are basically talking about both the mineral based industries, where the investment required is many-fold more than what it is in the case of an agro based industries. I'm not saying that this is absolutely cheap, but this is of course many times over, runs into many times over the amount which is required to set up a manufacturing industry of this kind. So we are going to look in this video essentially at the classification of industries, and classification is done on the basis of raw material, right? We already discussed in the earlier video about the kind of raw material that is required for setting up industries like this. You need coal, you need iron ore, you need manganese, dolomite, limestone, etc. The size and investment, on the nature of the products that are produced, the location and the market, the ownership, management of the particular firm, and of course on the finished product. So about half a dozen different categories, and that's what we are going to talk about in this particular video. So the first one is on the basis of raw material. Okay, now on the basis of raw material, you have these 4 kinds of industries. First one of course is the agro based industries, which are cotton, tea gardens. Assam, students from Assam would be familiar. Sugarcane, students from Maharashtra, Karnataka, South Karnataka in particular, even North Karnataka. Bidar also have seen. In Mysore region, you have a lot of sugarcane fields. Maharashtra, of course. Then Uttar Pradesh. Then jute, again, students from Bengal will be familiar. Coffee, again, you have coffee gardens largely in different parts, including in Karnataka, including the Northeast also. So those are the agro-based industries. Then you have the mineral-based industries, iron and steel being the major part, the heavy engineering, machine tools based engineering industries. Those are the mineral-based industries. Forest-based industries, this is an important classification you should know, and now you are looking at a subjective type paper. So detailing per dhyan dijiye. Okay, come out of the MCQ format. Wood for timber, because the wood which is obtained from the forest, timber ke liye for making of furniture, railway sleepers, etc. Lac, resin, rubber, students from Kerala will be very familiar, especially in districts like Kottayam, etc., where there's a lot of rubber which is produced, pulp, right, paper, etc. So that is again forest based industries. Then there is the animal based industries, which is wool, silk. Students from Karnataka, Mysore, silk would be familiar. Poultry, I don't know if you have seen poultry farms, they'll keep making a racket, creating a racket, but poultry farms. So these are the different kinds of industries based on raw material, on the basis of raw material. Okay, Next, we move on the basis of, sorry, I think of, yeah, on the basis of the nature of the product. Okay, so here you have two kinds, the heavy industries and the light industries. What is the difference between them? All these can come as 2 or even 3 mark questions. Now, heavy industries use bulky kind of raw material, iron and steel kind of thing. You know, you saw the photograph of the, if you saw the photograph, right? You see the kind of heavy thing, you know, a man cannot lift it, you need machines. So everything is very, very heavy, right? So you need to have huge raw capital, large quantity of raw material. You also need scientific know-how, you know, to how to actually, how much to mix and everything in order to produce this kind of quality steel and sophisticated machinery. The light industries are those which are more lightweight in character, the light industries, and these could include electronic goods, it could include bicycles, it could include sewing machines, you know, more consumer goods kind of orientation. It could also mean pharmaceuticals, the drugs industries, the medicines, etc., chemicals, specialty chemicals. All those kind of things need lesser capital in comparison with the iron and steel industry especially, and also less number of labor in comparison. I'm not saying very less, but in comparison to that, they need lesser number of labor. So on the basis of the nature of product, you can divide it into these two categories of heavy and light. Next is on the basis of size and investment, and here you have the large scale industry, the medium scale and the small scale industry. Now the large scale industries are the iron and steel industries kind of example. You need large investment of funds, the capital. You employ large number of workers, you need to pay them salaries and the pension, gratuity, all those kind of things that come into play, and the social security. The production is also on a large scale. Then you have the construction industry, the automobile industry, say a Mahindra and Mahindra, a Hero MotoCorp, a Bajaj Auto, a Maruti Suzuki, a Hyundai, you know, the automobile industry. Then you have the construction industry, you have the iron and steel industry, and these industries play a major role in the industrialization of a country. Next comes the medium scale industries, where in comparison to the large scale industries, the investment is of a lower scale. There are less workers. The goods produced also are smaller, right? You would have things like radio, electronic goods, cycle manufacturing, paper mills, etc., which would come in the medium scale industries. Then you have the small scale industry, where the capital base, the amount of money that you need to invest would be much lesser as compared to large scale and medium scale, and the number of employees would be much less again. And you will have things like weaving, food processing, you know, for instance, making of pickles, you know, small scale kind of industry. And it is also owned and managed by private individuals, by a group of individuals, but largely by one individual who will say that, okay, my specialty is to make these papads, right? So, jaise hota tha na lijjat papad, women used to make that. That's all part of the small scale industry, where you will have a group of people coming together, owned by a particular person. He will say that I employ, say, 50 women, and you make these papads. I will get it packaged and I will sell it in the market, whichever would be the nearest market. Now in India, please note this, 92% of the factories are in this and this category. This and this category, medium and scale, and only 8% are in the large scale category. So you can get an idea about, you know, a large part of India is actually invested in the medium scale and the large scale sector. Then we next come to on the basis of ownership oblique management, ownership and management. Now here you have different kind. You have the public sector, you have the private sector, you have the joint sector, and then you have the cooperative sector. What's the difference between these four? Now public sector is owned and controlled entirely by the government. It could be the union government, the central government, or it could be any of the state governments, and it consists of utilities like Indian Railways. It's entirely owned by the government, right? You have the power units, you have the defense units, like for instance, you know, firms like ONGC, the Oil and Natural Gas Corporation. You have the NTPC, which produces power. You have the Steel Authority of India Limited. You have the Gas Authority of India Limited. So you have all these kind of big sector public sector units, PSUs. Public sector units. It's called PSUs. Like for instance, a city like Vishakhapatnam, if any student is from Vizag, would know that it's also known as a PSU city. Why is it called as a PSU city? Because there are a large number of PSUs which were set up in Vishakhapatnam, which is known as a city of destiny. Okay. Now, only 6% of the total number of factories belong to the public sector, right? So, public sector, especially after 1991 liberalization, the percentage has started kind of coming down. The second sector is the private sector. You have the Tatas, the Birlas, the Reliance, the Ambanis, the Adanis, all of them, the Infosys, the Wipro, the Tech Mahindra, all of them in the private sector. A large part of the IT sector is in the private sector. Then you have the joint sector, okay, where it is jointly owned by the government and a few private individuals. Now, government usually will hold something like 26% equity, and the remaining 74% will be held by a private individual or a group of private individuals. For instance, here you have some examples which I picked up from the book. Automobile Corporation of India, Goa Limited, and Ipaita Sponge. Both of them are joint ventures with the Tata Group. Okay, I checked that they are listed on the stock market. Then finally, you have the cooperative sector, okay, which is a major success story if done well. It is run cooperatively by a group of people, right? And a large number of them are in many states, like Maharashtra has a lot, which is why you have a lot of these cooperative banks also. You have in Gujarat to a large extent, right, which also produce the raw material. The same people will also produce the raw material, and market will be somewhere in proximity. And the most famous of them is Amul, you know, Amul ka doodh pite ho, Amul butter, everything. The Anand Cooperative Milk Society. There is a brilliant movie called Manthan, which was made on the success story of Amul. Dr. Varghese Kurian was the pioneer in this in the early 70s. It's a great success story. You should read about Amul. I think that will be great knowledge gaining in that sense. Then next we move on the basis of location and market. And in this you have the village industries and you have the cottage industries. Now, what is the difference? Now, village industries fulfill the need of the local market. Okay, so the goods produced will also be what will be consumed by that particular local rural market, right? All the raw materials are also sourced from the same village. So you have things like pickle making, handlooms, pottery, food processing, khadi, you know, all those things come under the village industries. What are cottage industries? Now, these are also essentially household industries, okay? And they can be organized by individuals and the production can happen within the house itself, right? And they use the help of family members and use locally available resources and their own skills. For instance, if you go to Shivakasi, which is near Madurai in Tamil Nadu, where you have the fireworks industry, jo Diwali pe patake bajate ho. So there, if you go and see, a very fascinating kind of a place. I've done a very detailed report about 8 years ago on Shivakasi, and I was very fascinated by that place. Where you have all these bombs and, you know, all those kind of firecrackers being made inside the home itself. There will be an area within the home where they'll make it, of course, not very safe in that sense. You should ideally do it in proper units, but you have that also as part of a very cottage industry kind of a system. Plus, but even more than Shivakasi would be something like handloom, which is more of a cottage industry. It can also be described as a village industry. These kind of overlap. This is a bit of an overlap kind of a classification. Then on the basis of finished products and their functionality, what their uses are. Now here you have the basic industries, you have the secondary or the consumer industry, you have the tertiary industry and the ancillary units. Okay, so the basic industries are again the petroleum industry, the iron and steel industry, the core industries on which other industries depend and also support. Then you have the secondary or consumer industry where the raw material is processed into finished goods for direct use by consumers, and this could be like textiles, cotton, sugar, paper, etc., which is directly used by the consumer. Now, iron and steel is not directly used by you and me, right? It has to be made into a finished good for it to be used by you and me. But the second one, the secondary or consumer, is something where you and I can directly consume it. As I said, sugar ho, paper ho, textile, cotton hoe, woolen hoe, silk hoe, whatever kind of thing. Then you have the tertiary industries which provide public utility services like transportation, railways, postal, banking, etc. They all come under the tertiary kind of industries, which are like into those kind of the banking sector, for instance, right? Which are providing different kinds of services. This one is important, the ancillary units. This can come even as a 2-mark question. Now they provide this spare. Ancillary by definition means where you are providing the support, these spare parts for the main industry. For instance, in Sri Perumbudur in Tamil Nadu, where Rajiv Gandhi was assassinated in 1991 May, you have a large number of ancillary units which are basically servicing the automobile industry, because Hyundai is based out of there, right? So a large part, things which would make the car covers or the nuts and bolts for the wheels or the tire industry. So everything, to support that particular industry would come up in and around that particular township. So that's how it works. So they provide the ancillary parts for big industries like automobile, for aircraft maintenance, for electrical kind of goods. So all those kind of things come up as part of the ancillary industry. So with that, we come to the end of video number 2. In video number 3, we will look at sugar, and in video number 4, we will look at cotton. Okay. So I hope till now, जो हमने एक background बनाया है, I have told you about the importance and the classification of industries. I hope it's very clear. Please do have a look at the notes so that you will get more clarity, and also it will help you do a second revision. Okay. I'll now see you in video number